prime time telecast that we've done now for 4 months, almost 90 hours of programming featuring now hundreds of thinkers, entrepreneurs, people with their own startups, people who've been industrialists for an extended length of time, and people who are professionals, wealth creators in this country, trying to take a dib of the most important conversation that we must have. What do we do to get India back on track to where we were and beyond? Let's open up this special telecast, which we do in partnership with Business World, by introducing our guest this evening. We have Gautam Ganglani, who is the CEO of Right Selection. Shibani Kashyap, you'll recognize her. She's a singer, composer, live performer. Kalpesh Banker is joining us. He is the managing partner of EduShine. Anish Arjun Dev, founder, director of Wide Angle Media. And we also have Mr. Anil Pinapala, CEO and founder of Vivify. And as always, Anurag Batra, editor-in-chief of Business World, joining us on the telecast. Anurag ji, set up the conversation for us, please.
Thank you so much, Rishabh. We've been doing this for 4 months, and again, we have a diverse set of entrepreneurs today. Let me start by asking Gautam. Gautam, you bring thought leaders to India at physical events, or you used to bring thought leaders to India at physical events. Now that has totally dried up. I know you've gone into a virtual, business model. But tell us, how has your business been impacted by COVID, and what is the pivot you've taken in your business so that you can survive? Gautam? I think we lost Gautam.
Yeah, we just lost him at the last minute.
No problem. Let me bring in Kalpesh. Kalpesh, businesses in the last 7 months have kind of remodeled themselves, reimagined. They've been impacted, so they have found a new way of doing business. Tell us, Kalpesh, in your business, what has been the impact of COVID and where do you see it headed?
So EduShine is a management consulting firm focused on education. If you look at last few months, education earlier pre-COVID and post-COVID, it has been absolutely different. Earlier, you were able to see education as one set. Now, you have to divide it into 2 parts, traditional education, which is offline, and online, edtech. So, earlier, we were completely focused on traditional education, formal higher education. But looking at the change, we have adopted it and we are now focused on both equally. As far as being a consulting firm, our strategy is concerned, as a consulting firm, we need a very few clients to be successful. On quarter basis, if we get minimum number of clients, we are successful. However, the impact of overall business is also on our business. So we have pivoted and we are now more focused on one online and the newer areas where the focus is something like the traditional institutions, universities were not that much concerned about being progressive on implementation of technology. But due to COVID, they're aggressively looking at technology implementation. And that is where we are helping them. Looking at the current economic scenario, there is a limited opportunity for fresh graduates. That is where they are facing a challenge. So we are helping institutions in finding out the ways to solve that challenge.
Understood. But tell us, if your business was, say, 100 rupees in terms of fees in March, where is it in September? Is it 80? Is it 120? Is it 60?
It is for sure above 120.
Okay.
We have done very
By the way, maybe call me traditionalist, but I think the education is not just about, talking to a screen. Education is much more. Whether it's a business school or entry-level K-12 education, I think there'll be a hybrid model. The technology absorption will be more. Even there'll be learning and reskilling in corporate India. But the traditional education, which is on the campus, is not going anywhere. So I think it will kind of assimilate technology more, but evolve into a hybrid model, which is more physical. Today we have the compulsion of doing it in a certain way, but when we have a choice, I think we'll settle to an equilibrium which will be more in favor of a physical, because children learn life skills. Students at a business school learn life skills that cannot be taught through this video interaction. That only happens when you take the school bus, when you talk to the school teacher, when you play in the playground, or in business school when you do collaborative projects. So I'll move on and I'll come back to you, Kalpesh. And I'd like to ask you what is happening into the educational sector, because there is again existential crisis for a lot of educations, institution, because tier 2, tier 3 educational institutions are facing an issue of, demand. They're facing an issue of fees, and they're still traditional in their approach, so they are kind of missing the bus. So we'll come to that. Shivani, you as a performer, again, what I was telling Gautam, you as a performer would go to physical gigs, perform there. Now tell us how your life has changed, your earnings have kind of morphed, if I may say, lower earnings, because of physical gigs not happening. And also Bollywood means new songs, and that means more performances. Now that is not happening. There's no shoots happening. I mean, shoots have started, but they are very limited. Their budgets are lower. So tell us, Shivani, how has COVID impacted your business side?
Hi, Anurag. Thanks for having me on this panel. Well, it has impacted me, but I think I have also managed to reinvent myself as a performer, because I have, learned the whole idea of actually becoming a digitized performer. So it's like basically empowering myself with technology. So what happens is that of course, the performer is the same, everything is the same, but I have to build a stage, which is a virtual stage now. So how well can I do it? How impressive can that be done? So I have been learning the ropes, and I have thankfully managed to do about 60 virtual concerts in these 6 months. Well, I know I've done many concerts, but the earnings have come down to 25%, because obviously, the organizers or the clients feel that no, yaar, aap ghar se show kar rahe ho, so why should we pay you so much? So it is understandable, because they also don't really get that experience of being in front of the performer. But we are trying to better this game by doing by the help of technology, basically by creating a better stage, by creating better interactive engagements. I just did a show for the kickstart of IPL. IPL has started. So me and Salman Ali, the singer, alongside, we did a show for a Dubai-based company, which was an online ticketed concert. And we had a completely sold out concert. So basically the whole idea was to sell the show on the name of Cricket Dhamal alongside IPL. So that's how we have to ideate and, basically exploit the situation. So we can't just sit at home and say, and become morose and say, abhi to kuch nahi ho raha, rehne do. No, people are yearning for entertainment. People want to see performers. People want to see good music, new music. And even if Bollywood films are not happening, music, I think this is the right time for independent musicians. It's a boom time. So I have created almost 6 songs in this time, and all 6 have released, not at the same big release promotion, but at least gradually and slowly we are doing something. So, but we cannot just sit at home and say that, let's just put our hands up and let's not do anything. Balki, this is the time to create more. So it is a very productive time. It may not be monetarily very beneficial for any of us, because we have to cut down on our rates, because honestly, the sponsors are not prepared to pay the same rates while they see the performer performing from a virtual stage. They're not prepared to, even though the hard work is far more. With the setup takes 4 hours. It takes 4 hours to set up. There is a 3-camera setup. There's a virtual stage. There are 3 cameras which you have to practice looking into. There's a lot which goes into it. The sound.
So Shivani, I want to ask, say in February or January, if your earnings were 100 rupees, or let's say last September they were 100 rupees, where are your earnings? And I talked about your fraternity, your oak of performers. I mean, it has impacted the whole value chain. So give us a sense of the loss.
It's 25 rupees now, to be honest with you.
Okay, so you had an erosion of 70-80%, 75%.
Yeah. But if it is 25, then we have to work harder on volumes. So say if I was doing 4 shows in a month or 5 shows, I have to do 20 shows at least. I have to try and get 20 concerts. So, or maybe 30, maybe I have to work daily. But maybe then that will become equivalent to what I was earning in a pre-COVID times. So the whole idea is to do more concerts, to do more things and ideate more. We'll have to work harder, we'll have to work more round the clock. But yes, for that particular concert, I'm going to get only 25% of what I used to get before.
Okay, Shivani. Anil, how has your business been impacted and what are you doing to pivot in your business?
See, in some ways, we are a business that's built for these times. We are a digital lender. We are a fintech lending firm. We are an RBI registered NBFC. So we are one of the few companies, few NBFCs in India, which is a digital first NBFC. So as a fintech lending firm, we have always focused on acquiring our customers through digital means. 85-90% of our customers apply for their loans online. And their entire servicing is online. They make the loan payments online. And for us, the challenge once the lockdown set in and the RBI mandated some moratoriums for the lenders, that kind of started to affect our business because the moratorium is a double-edged sword, right? Like on one end, it is a benefit for the customer in case there are, like Shibani just mentioned, if there is a cut in their cash flows, either their salaries or if they are self-employed. But at the same time, the way the RBI defined the moratorium, the interest keeps on accruing. So we took a lot of effort to build educational material so that our customers make the right decision. The right decision is to, if you have the cash flows, keep making your loan payments. Don't accrue interest because it kind of piles up at a later time. But at the same time, if you don't have cash flows, this is exactly the tool you need to use. This is why the regulatory framework in the country has given you an opportunity to kind of have forbearance on your payments. So that has been a big push on our side to educate the customers and make sure that our collections continue to go up. If I'm looking at some of our peers who are in microfinance industry, which is all heavily touch-based industry, their collections, especially at the peak of lockdown, have dropped as much as 80 to 90%. And in a loan business, if you're not collecting, it kind of really affects it. But apart from that,
and this environment is also a credit issue. I mean,
yes,
credit worthiness, determining the credit worthiness is so tough. You don't know what is the credit. I mean, you may have tools and heuristics to find out, but generally, it is becoming tougher and tougher.
Yeah, you have to estimate the cash flows. You have to know that the customer is still employed, that they actually have the ability and the intent to repay. Both of them should exist. And one of the major things we are doing is, as we have all seen, the pivot for many of the industries, retail, everything has been digital. And people who are within payments and credit, it has been contactless. So we are talking about contactless payments. UPI has taken over the payment infrastructure in the country. There are more UPI transactions than debit card transactions. And because people don't want to give out cash, people don't want to put their debit card in a machine and type in their ATM, because all of this in the pandemic has a risk. And so we have taken our learnings from that, and within Vivify, within Flex Salary, what we have focused is trying to get contactless credit. We want customers to be able to pay for their grocery purchases even when they don't have money in their bank account with their phone. And that's what we have done. And we have just released it, this new product into the market in a beta version to our existing customers for the last 4 to 5 weeks. The response has been tremendous. And we are now, this coming week, we are expanding it to the market at large so that we can attract newer customers to come in and use our FlexPay product. So it's been challenging time, but at the same time, it has presented us with opportunities.
I want to ask you, Anil, say in March when the lockdown happened, let's take it April numbers in terms of loan disbursement, right? If it was 100, where is it in August?
In terms of loan disbursements, we probably kind of went down quite a bit in the initial
phase. Which is what happened with all lending firms.
Yeah. So we are now back to maybe 50 to 60% from a loan disbursement level. but from a revenue and collection level, we are almost back to our March levels. And there is a severe credit crunch in the market. I mean, obviously, everyone has tightened their purses or tightened their underwriting, especially the large banks. And as our customer segment is lower income, below 30,000 rupee income, below 20,000 rupee income. And they're looking at digital innovative fintech lenders like us to kind of fill the gap that the banks are unable to do. Even though the banks are sitting on a lot of cash, they're not disbursing and they're not giving out loans. And it is important for companies like us to get liquidity from the government so that we are able to service the need which banks are not willing to.
Sure. Thank you, Anil. We'll get you back for more comments, but let me bring in Gautam. Gautam, I was trying to start with you, but we lost you. I know you well. I know what you do. We collaborated. So, you had a very robust business of bringing thought leaders to India and getting them to do trainings for organizations, to do speaking at events. Now that the physical events have dried up, we're focusing only on essentials.
Right.
What has happened to your business? What is the pivot you've taken? And give us a sense of how your revenues have done.
Great. Thank you, Anurag. So for us, as the lockdown started, the first step and the most important step we found is acceptance. You accept what you cannot change and focus on what you can. And we decided as a family business, we said, now this is the time to give back more than ever, collaborate more than ever, make a difference and add value. So we had to press pause on the button of any business opportunities in terms of speaking. So we ran back-to-back virtual events, webinars, hosted over 20 webinars in 3 months and had about 15,000 people attend those with all the speakers globally supporting that initiative. They said, we run a business, but this is the time to make a difference and help those during these uncertain times, which are stressful and obviously a lot of pressure for everyone. So that goodwill was for a 3-month campaign. And obviously we had a CSR initiative to just support those really in need. So that was a really great cause. And during this time, from a business standpoint, what we did is a lot of research. We asked our customers saying, what are your current pain points? What are your needs? What are the topics that you're looking for? What kind of learning? So we gathered a lot of data in those 3 months. And the last 3 months, business-wise, has been absolutely phenomenal, to say the least. So we have reverse engineered all that feedback of those 3 months to customize the solutions that clients need. And the biggest thing is, whilst you said, we're going through tough times, no question about it. Everyone will cover their essentials. But the next best investment is investing in yourself. So our whole campaign was invest in yourself. Because yes, food is there, your overheads are there, those which can't be avoided. But the next best investment is invest in yourself. Invest in yourself to be more resilient, more confident. If it's in your current profession, become more valuable to your current employees. If it's your business, how to become more resilient. And if for second reason you're losing a job, we're saying you need to become more resilient for your next career path. This is not the time to sit back and go into a shell and go into a vicious negative cycle. Invest in yourself, and that message came out loud and clear. And we had CEOs investing in CEO coaching with Marshall Goldsmith in roundtables, to master classes at a few thousand rupees for individuals to learn LinkedIn or build their personal brands. So from across the board, people were investing in themselves, and that's been sort of the pivot in these last 3 months.
You're saying that it has given you time to build relationships, enhance relationships, listen deeper, and that has helped you get more solutions and repackage what you do.
Absolutely.
That's what it's saying. And in terms of revenues, if you were 100 in February, where are you in August?
In August, we are 120 plus.
That's a very good place to be.
Yeah.
I wish every business owner who comes on this show has similar, because that's how India will grow. Coming to final comments from the first panel, let me bring in a media professional. We would like to know, how has your business, I have some knowledge of media, how has your business grown, Mr. Anish Arjundev? And you don't like Gillette. The Gillette stock will not do well if you come on TV shows like this. I mean, it's part of the consumer economy, or any other shaving brand, but we'll talk about it another day. But I'd like to understand, how is the wide angle media's business done? Where do you see it headed? And what is your advice to other people in the media business?
Hi Anurag and everyone at the panel. So media business, where you're coming from, wherever the physical interaction and physical presence is there, like cinema, theaters, events, as Shivani just said. So that has taken a big impact because of the COVID, because there is no physical touch and social distancing norms. But on the side of broadcasting and digital, the business has grown. That means the people who were sitting in the lockdown, during the lockdown at their homes, they were doing just content watching on the OTT platforms as well as watching TV. Also, in the education space, what my colleague just said, they have been educating themselves on the online and obviously professional training on the senior management level and specialization courses. So coming to the media business, broadcasting and digital both have really enveloped. There is a substantial increase in the viewership. But at the flip side, the advertisement industry, on which the entire broadcasting industry and majority of the eyeballs of OTT
media players, content players depend, has not grown.
Yeah, that has taken a dip. Not grown, it has taken a dip. From 100 rupees per se, it has gone down to 30 rupees in the media spend, which is, the reports are all over the newspapers and business dailies like Economic Times and other surveys. So when the pipeline of the revenue drops and the increase in the viewership happens, so you can say the eyeballs have increased, but ultimately the money has to come, so revenues have dropped. So that is a big challenge now. I just read
with IPL season being there, about 20 crore people watch IPL first match at Exchange for Media. We just published the data. With Diwali around the corner, about 50 days away from now, you see demand coming back and hence advertising going up.
Yeah, so I just read in the dailies today, in fact...
you also read Business World.
Yes.
Daily, businessworld.in.
Absolutely.
Also a daily. There are traditional players and there are new age players. So you should also read businessworld.in.
Yeah, so
and watch NewsX.
Of course. So I just watched the news today. I mean, I read the news on the paper also, the Business World, maybe some online. So there is expected to be a 30% increase in the ad revenue in the next quarter. That is October, November, December. Because of the festival seasons, and they all are saying that online sales agencies like, online retail, electronics, consumer goods, that's the place where the focus of the expenditure will be. So when this kind of a money increases in the advertisement spends, the broadcasters increase the spend on the content. They increase the spend on their outreach to the customers to keep them engaged, because it's all about engagement in this fierce market. There are plenty of channels, plenty of OTT platforms. How to keep your customers and viewers engaged with interesting content. So that is where the money will go. So hopefully things for the broadcasting and entertainment sectors, they have not gone down substantially. It is a 16% dip in the advertisement revenue, but it's an increase of 30%.
So Dev, you see it coming back. But where is it coming back? Is there an absolute digital pivot happening? Because we still don't know. A lot of the print publications have come back, but it's still been difficult. A lot of people are watching TV mediums like us, and we are a percentage of the TV viewership nationally. I think it's 1% or 2%. Covers entertainment and sports and all that. Is it coming back across the board, or is it coming back only in niche areas?
Niche areas, as I said, that wherever the physical interactivity and the physical presence is there, it has really gone away because it's wiped off. You don't see theaters open, you don't see events happening. So that is going to continue till the time things come back to normal, or we have a vaccine, or we have a sure and short psychology going in the market that yes, when I go out, nothing will happen to me. So nobody knows. Nobody has the answer to that when it will bounce back.
Okay, how are you guys? I mean, how do you guys handle in the difficult circumstance when the push to digital is happening? The fact that the established digital players, whether you go through a Google or go through a Facebook, take a large commission of the advertising and control how their advertising algorithm works. How do you guys navigate that? As 30-40%.
I didn't get your answer.
How do you guys navigate the platforms that are owned by the large conglomerates, Google Ads, Facebook? Because recently we saw a lot of big multinationals try to boycott Facebook for a limited period of time. It didn't last, but it had to happen. How do you guys navigate the portion of the pie that they take?
Okay, so as far as our role is concerned, that is, we are one of the prominent digital content distributors in the country. We are known by VAM India. So we don't know what is happening at the platform's end. We don't know how to navigate how they are handling their challenges. Because, see, Facebook is a user-generated video platform and a user-generated social media platform. Now, they have introduced a user-generated content page, but they are basically a social media platform. So they have their own algorithms and they have their own rules and revenue models. Sometimes they cover up in one quarter, sometimes they go in a deficit in the another quarter. So we don't have any access to their.
No, that's fair enough. But I was trying to wonder how much of the percentage pie that these platforms take versus the rest. I'm told it's 30 to 40%. But okay, let's come back and address this. I need to take a quick break. But before that, let me quickly go across the panel if I can. In real terms, Mr. Pinapala, when you're talking about help is required in getting sums of money so that you can go back to your clients, have you seen an increase in the number of people coming out to firms like you, the digital NBFC model that you mentioned for seeking loans? Has that exponentially gone up? Has it remained constant? Has it dipped?
We were on an exponential growth path till COVID hit. Obviously, from March, there was a dip in the demand. And we are a consumer lender. Obviously, if the consumers don't have anything to spend on, the demand obviously will take a shot for a period of time. But as I was mentioning earlier to Anurag, that we have seen the demand come back. It's definitely not back to the pre-COVID levels, but it is definitely coming back.
Okay. In your assessment, Anilji, would a typical consumer of yours, will he be looking for payday kind of loans? Will they be looking for short loans because they want to purchase something? Or would they be looking for SOS loans?
I mean, it's a combination of the two. I think there are a certain set of customers who are looking for a short-term borrowing so that they can just tide over the current need. And also the SOS portion is true. And with us, what we do is we give them a line of credit, which is almost like a credit card for low-income customers. So they are able to use the money we give whenever they need.
Okay.
So there is a natural draw to our.
Okay, why don't you explain that for our viewers? So it's a rolling credit system. Basically, you give them, let's say, 20,000 rupees. If they're not used the money, then they're not paying any interest on it. Once they pay it back, then that sort of get topped up and then they can re-borrow it. Is that roughly what it is?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So this gives them the flexibility to kind of withdraw money and repay whenever they need money, they will withdraw, and whenever they have money.
Back of the envelope, what is the kind of funds that your sector would require to actually disburse the amount of demand that you're seeing now?
See, I mean, are you talking about the sector as a whole?
Yeah, you can talk about reference to context from your own example, or if you want to talk largely, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, some of the measures that the finance minister announced back in the day, where they talked about 20,000 to 40,000 crores for the smaller NBFCs as a liquidity support to the sector. If that actually percolated, would have been good. I mean, the announcement definitely had strength in it, but it's not getting converted into
So it's a consistent criticism we've seen throughout. I think we've seen this for many months now, is that the banks are sitting on capital. I can tell you that the bankers are willing to even take very low RBI interest rates, but they don't want to take the risk right now. They're very risk averse. Quickly, Mr. Kalpesh Banker, coming into your industry, which is the place where people raising revenue has not been a problem. Are the business models...
Yes, EduTech has raised the most amount of money. In the last 7 months, about $1.8 billion has flown into EduTech.
So it's not a cash crunch. So Kalpesh, you're not having a cash crunch. But are we having a crowding crunch or a realization that once COVID goes away and the physicality of education returns, that some of the revenues will get rationalized?
So we operate across the spectrum, traditional and online. As far as traditional is concerned, there is huge pressure. Financial pressure is huge. The cash crunch is there. They have lost their revenue, non-tuition fees revenue in a big way. As far as online is concerned, there is no dearth of cash. So it's absolutely contrast within the sector.
Okay, but is that reflective? I mean, are people willing to pay extra or substitute fees, because everybody will not be able to maybe afford both going ahead? Will there, with the online aspect, will be a top up? Will it become the main proportion of an education spend in the future, you think?
Online, I personally feel, cannot be the substitute to traditional education. Even if you look at it in higher education, all the online players are offering courses of traditional higher education institutions.
Correct.
Rarely, there are very few who are offering their own content. So in a way, it is helping prestigious or branded higher education institutions in increasing their revenue.
Okay.
Might be not today, but in long run it will help
so it's
them
increasing.
in a big way.
It's an increment, or at least a replacement or substitution for revenue loss right now. Shibani ji, you mentioned in your earlier conversation that, look, it's come down because the experiential part of doing a live concert and live event is all about experience, right? Otherwise, somebody can listen to a recording if you have listened to it on the computer.
Right.
For professionals, and those professionals are not just you people across the field who rely on these experiential points, is this a reality here to stay, that it's going to be a quarter? Because now I'm being told vaccine is maybe early 2021. I don't know what that means. We were told end of 2020, now it's early 2021. Science first, it could be later. Are people just not willing to spend more, or given the fact that if this becomes the new normal, it will come back? People willing to spend online more?
Yeah, so Rishabh, that's what exactly my point is, that if this is going to be here to, if this is here to stay, then people will have to, start spending the way they used to pre-COVID times, because entertainers cannot be charging less for so long. So, as I said, the hard work involved in the back-end technology, the setting up, the audio, everything is much, it's a double hard work that we do than what we do in a normal physical show. So the experience may not be the same, but the back-end work is doubly hard. So, of course, I think the idea is for everyone to be technologically more empowered, and even the listener, like the person who's listening to the artist or seeing the artist, should actually be also technologically enabled well. So they should be always request our listeners to be connected on Bluetooth speakers so that they get a better experience.
Okay,
otherwise,
so, because there's a part to conquer here before I take a break. Gautam Gangwani, at a time when we've transitioned from a phase where people did not expect to pay for anything online, everything was freely downloaded, to where, okay, now at least for video, music, video streaming, people are willing to pay a certain amount. But still, if a couple of people go to watch a movie, that's your entire Netflix subscription for an entire month, right? You can still get a lot of training content which is freely available on YouTube or on other platforms. So how are you guys targeting the model that people who want something different in value addition, that they're willing to pay you extra when free models are already available?
Great question. Thank you very much. So we absolutely acknowledge that there's been an information overload and freely available, as we've seen with the flood of webinars, etc. So it was a very challenging question, but we said, okay, what can we make? What can stand out? What can we do differently? So first and foremost, the webinars were all 45 minutes to an hour. We said, okay, attention spans aren't going to be expanded much more than that, but we're going to willing to test the metal. And we did our surveys and we found 2 hours to 3 hours is possible with a break. What are people missing is networking. What are people missing is some kind of interaction. So we identified all of these. So we've run 3 major programs, which obviously the cost is a fraction of what we would normally charge. So what would normally charge at 30,000 rupees is now at 10,000 rupees. So it's 1/3. So now it's about the bigger questions about a scale. But to answer how the model changed, we used a platform called AirMeet, where we had networking, where people rotated at tables half an hour, 45 minutes before the event. That's the experience they have in a hotel. You have your beverages and network. We made sure that every 10 minutes they networked, exchange LinkedIn connects, change tables. So we sort of speed networking happened. During the event, you had a professional MC opening the event, etc. You had a break in between, and at the end, you had a mix between breakout rooms, etc. So you try to have different takeaways. You provided an e-workbook.
Okay, so you're saying you're providing the. I mean, I'll give you an example. Let's say this wasn't a live TV webinar, which is where we're on. Before and after, you would allow people to gather and do their general networking where they would otherwise be on a table. So this is the value add that you guys are doing.
networking is there, discussions are there, yes, absolutely, and there's a workbook they provided. So to some extent, those are the different.
Okay. So if I were to watch a video on, let's say, on some management training video on YouTube, I don't get the opportunity of actually meeting the person or chatting with them before and after the seminar. So these are the adaptations to be done over here. But have your costs come down? So therefore, it's still become viable that even if you're
costs have absolutely come down. No flights, no hotel, etc. And obviously the artists, the in-art trade, the thought leaders, they're all very flexible to find partnership models to work. So there has been adjustments by everyone.
Dr. Anurag Batra, the recent trend that people are telling me is that, Rishabh, you have to also factor in something that is now being called the reform stimulus. That there are opportunities that are going to be created by bringing reform in this country, maybe not to the same level as 1991, but those have also a positive bearing on the Indian economy. If you have a national education policy that is, making coding a thing for primary school kids, then that's an entrepreneurship opportunity for somebody to develop a coding app. And we know, of course, there have some of them have done really, really well and have become multi-billion-dollar propositions in this country. There is going to be an opportunity in cold chains, in the farm sector, and in this. Is there a reform stimulus opportunity, Dr. Batra?
I think, of course, reform lays the right structure and changes some of the constraints for growth to happen. But reforms take time. The impact of reforms take time. What is needed, and let me give you an analogy. If a patient needs a CPR now, and you give it to him in half an hour or 1 hour, or the next day, by that day, the patient is dead. So reforms is like a person who's been unwell. Yes, the person first needs to walk, then he needs to brisk walk, and then he needs to or she needs to run. So I think right now what we need is to help the economy to walk and prepare a track or a road or a park where they can blossom. I think reforms are the right structure, but their impact will be in some time. However, let me tell you what we underestimate. What the Prime Minister is doing is to instill that sense of confidence that we can do it. And when you have that confidence, you can come up with ideas, solutions, products that can compete on a global level. But I agree that the reforms are on the right track, and I expect in the next 18 months, every 2-3 months, government to do something which structurally creates an advantage for
structural
India
advantages.
And entrepreneurs.
Okay, the other big conversation topic was ecosystems. Anil Pinapala, today we are talking about space ecosystems of private public partnership, training, education in space, R&D, defense sector ecosystems on the same lines. Are we seeing an ecosystem approach emerging in this country? Has it become easier, for example, for entrepreneurs to pivot, to change?
I think that's kind of a loaded question, I would say, because see, there are at least there is an intent to build the ecosystems. Before I came back to India after spending 18 years in the US and started this business, when I think about an ecosystem, the maturity that we see in a developed economy like US is obviously not available in India. But there is, you see the green shoots, you see the fact that there is an initiative taken at the overall government level, at a vision level, that could help build a true ecosystem that could help people pivot, help people and support them in their growth initiatives.
Okay.
But I'm not sure if it's already there. And once more, ecosystem, as I said, it's loaded because it is not dependent on any one individual.
No, it's everything. It's policy, it's infrastructure, it's private involvement. I mean, a lot. Government is not investor, although that conversation is happening, that the government of India might take on equity stakes in unlisted companies and help them get listed. But in the end, it's about entrepreneurship, it's about private capital, it's about people who were willing to take risks. Same question to you, Kalpesh Banker. Education, for example, both in physical and the online space, has to be ecosystem driven. There has to be the right policy, the right syllabus, the right platforms. If you don't have internet, you can't do online education. Are you seeing an ecosystem approach emerging in the country?
So new education policy, I personally feel, will take time to create real impact. But yes, it has created, or it has started a new energy flow in the whole ecosystem. Moving forward, earlier ecosystem and the new ecosystem will be different. It is emerging. So still the models are emerging, traditional institutions are looking at new models. Even something like EdTech was earlier not looking at the placement of the students. Now they are aggressively looking at committing the placement for the students. So those
so this is what I was asking Kalpesh Banker, that that the ecosystem approach is, and therefore the person who is hiring also is looking for online partners to do hiring rather than going to universities. That's the ecosystem approach. Are we in the right direction in terms of policy, in terms of how we are looking at solving our economic problems in a larger holistic fashion rather than a segment by segment fashion? Kalpesh ji.
Are you asking?
Yeah.
So yes, as a overall government initiative, it looks like we are going in the right direction. However, it's in bits and pieces. Something like, I'm talking about education. Education policy has been announced, but if you look at the feasibility of implementation, there are so many challenges in it. So it will take time.
Okay, so time is going to take relentless effort, is what you're saying. Relentless effort,
Absolutely.
Both of entrepreneurs and of policymakers, and those people who are supposed to roll this out. Shivani Kashyap, ma'am, same question or a similar question to you. Do we now go ahead after 6 months have elapsed? Do we still need in some areas SOS intervention, the ICU life-saving drugs that Anurag Batra was talking about, that these patients are about to die, they require immediate help, versus we need to build more hospitals which will help future patients?
So you said something very interesting just now. You talked about internet. You talked about the internet facilities. Now, in a case like an online concert or even online education or anything online, if you don't have ample internet speed and internet proper connection, you are not able to do it. You can't. Like, there were many times during our concerts, while the live concert was on,
Yeah,
there was rain, there was a storm, and the Wi-Fi just crashed. What do you do then? So you need to have a very, very sturdy and a stable internet situation in our country at the moment, so that it can enable all of us to go ahead and function at this time.
yeah, strategic asset.
It is an all-time low.
It's a strategic asset. It's a good point. Same applies to us. If in the middle of the live telecast, the internet drops right now, live telecast is over, I can continue speaking because we are still satellite linked, but I'll lose all of you. Gautam Gangwani, same question to you. How much of SOS support is now required versus the larger scheme ecosystem building support? Gautam ji.
Sorry?
How much SOS support, which is the here and now intervention, life-saving intervention, is still required versus the approach that looks strategic, long-term, medium-term changes in policy, reform, which will all have good consequences later, but don't help right now?
I'm not clear on the question, to be honest.
Okay.
What he's asking, Gautam, is what can be done to help people, for example, startups whose revenues have gone down to zero or
Yes.
close to zero, and they've not raised funding, people whose businesses are facing challenges. What can the government do to help them stay alive and possibly thrive in the future?
I can only invest in education is the best way. You have to invest in the future and innovate. I mean, there is nothing else that, stimulus is always welcome, but at the end of the day, we have to innovate and we have to create new markets. This creates new business opportunities. So to me, it's investing in education. And that's the best suggestion I could give at this time on that.
Okay, quick last
Disha,
question.
let me ask them the
go ahead,
question
sir.
that I always ask.
Yeah, please go ahead. We've got 5 minutes.
6:52. Let me ask all of you, and let me start from the gentleman from media. He was the last one that we asked, so let us get him to be the first one. When do you think the Indian economy will be back in full bloom? In 6 months, 12 months, or 18 months? And why do you think so? I want a very straight answer, and no, it depends. Of course, it depends on when the COVID will go away. It depends on when the vaccine will come. But in your assessment, when will your industry be back to the boom times, possibly which were there a year back? So let me start first by asking my friend from media, Mr. Dev, when do you think we'll be back to a full bloom?
Okay, so Anurag, when you asked me the question first that what do you think the economy will be back? So I just thought you're talking about the Indian economy or the world economy. So if I would have been able to answer that question very well, I would have been sitting in the finance ministry by now. But if you ask me, the question as to media industry when it will bounce back.
The media industry is dependent on how the economy does, how the demand is. So if more autos are being sold or there is a possibility of them being sold, then there will be more advertising. And let's take the auto industry. It takes between 4 to 8 years to acquire land, to put up a manufacturing plant.
So coming to the
cost thousands of crores of rupees. So they're not going to save money when they invested 4,000 crores in production. They're not going to save 40 crores in marketing. But the fact is, right now, that the environment was such, how to sell. So business and economy.
As far as media industry is concerned, it is divided largely into 3 sectors: exhibition sectors, cinema halls. Second is broadcasting industry. Third is digital industry. Digital industry is already on roll. It has not come down because of COVID. Rather, it has taken an upswing. So I guess that 30 to 40% spike has been there in the digital media by way of subscriptions and video on demand. And the consumption has gone online, OTT, all over in all spheres. As far as broadcasting industry is concerned, the numbers have drastically gone up, but the revenues surely will come back. It will take 6 months. Precisely, if you ask me a question, it will take 6 months. 6 months to come back to its normal. 6 to 9 months to come back to its normal. And exhibition sector, till the time cinema hall opens, after that you can say 3 months from then, because people should feel safe about it. So nobody can answer that question.
Thank you for a direct answer. Anil Pinapla, your point of view, when do you see the economy coming back?
You've asked me to not start with it depends. I'm trying hard not to. But it should be in a 6 to 9 month time frame, I would think, considering where the peak would be and when the vaccine could hit the market. But in terms of demand within our industry, I'm seeing that that probably is going to come back quicker. I think the challenge within our industry, like Rishabh pointed out earlier, is more about liquidity. The banks are sitting on a lot more cash and not letting that liquidity percolate into the larger economy. And I think that's the challenge that we need to solve. And that's where the government should ensure that the banks have the intent to pump more dollars into the economy.
Okay. Kalpesh Banker?
I feel it will take at least 3 to 4 quarters. We have
3 quarters is 12 months, 4 quarters is
9 months to 12 months time for sure. Not less than that. I feel we are in the phase from acceptance level that this is going to stay for long. The businesses are going to go through consolidation now. There will be more and more mergers and acquisitions happening. After that only we will be back on track. I think it is going to take at least 9 months to 12 months time.
Shibani Kashyap?
Anurag, I'm expecting that from this November, this Diwali, at least our
the wedding economy. Even smaller weddings mean
yes, smaller weddings. We're already getting inquiries. So I'm getting a little whiff of the trend right now that we're getting booked for smaller size weddings. And if that happens in volumes, then I think we are good to go. We're good to more than survive. So I think things will start looking up from this November, because that's the way it's looking out for me, at least. And I'm sure if that's the way for me, I'm sure it is for the entire entertainment sector out there. So
thank you, Shibani. Final word, Gautam.
In my opinion, from January onwards, we are going to see the new economy moving, because there are some businesses that are thriving in today's time. There are some businesses even are not going to survive. That's the harsh reality. And there's going to be absolutely brand new businesses which are coming up as we speak, are being created as we speak. So to me, the economy is going to be robust from January onwards, but there will be different players in the market. There'll be new players, and those who have the maturity to innovate and adapt will also thrive, not survive, thrive. And some will just not be able to do it. So to me, from January onwards, we've had enough 6 months, another 3 months, we've had enough acceptance time, as Kalpesh had shared. So that's my
Thank you, Gautam. Back to you,
Well, hope dangles on a string, and that's good news for all of us. At least we can continue hoping it's not all gloom and doom, but so much needs to be done.
But Rishabh, they say hope is not a plan.
Okay, that I agree with. I have much things I hope for, but then I have to get back to work as well. So check out Gautam's book, Breaking Bread, which you can see on your screens. And if you or your company are looking for training exercises, Right Selection is there. Check out Mr. Anil Pinapala's Vivify for loans in case you need people who needs them. Check out the website, or I'm sure they have an app. Everybody knows what Shivani Kashyap does, so you can check out her songs on YouTube, I'm guessing. And of course, invest in media advertising. I think Mr. Dev, as well as the rest of us, have a vested interest in that, so we'll highly recommend it. And don't forget EduShine, check that out, of Kalpesh Banker. As I said, we're all in this boat together. If we all succeed, the better for all of us.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.